Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from the Hub, here today with our friend Roberta. She's the one who does horizon planning for the WellSpan Health System. Hello there, my friend.
Hello there, Kelly. Happy, beautiful summer day in October.
Yeah, not too shabby out there.
Right,
Not too
Sherry? No,
shabby.
no. Even though you're a little dreary, we're more sunny in York than
It's all
Lancaster.
good.
It's still good. It's
It's
still
all
very
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the leaves are turning. I mean, it's just beautiful. I
Oh, it
saw a
is.
sign yesterday that said autumn is my favorite color. And I said, that's the answer right there.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about horizon planning, and this topic for today is my parents won't tell me their wishes. And I'm sort of facing that. Um, I'll just tell everybody it's totally fine. I'm a child of divorce, so I have two sets of parents. Um, I don't know if that makes it more easy. It's easier or harder, but it is what it is. My father hasn't really told me um, what his stuff is. I I need to ask. I thought he would just sort of say it. So I was looking to, follow his lead. He
Um,
sort of hasn't. It's not that I'm scared to do it. I just,
it's uncomfortable. It's
yeah, and I don't,
uncomfortable.
it's also that I, what if he doesn't say what I want him to say? I think
Oh,
that's the other
yeah.
part of it. Like, I have thoughts and I want him to say what I want him to say. So, all right. So, how do we deal with this? How do you deal with your parents who won't tell you?
So, Kelly, we've talked over these few weeks. Horizon planning, as WellSpan's name for advanced care planning.
Yep.
So, what we're talking about is advanced care planning. And this subject really reinforces that advanced care planning is not about creating some kind of document.
Yeah.
It's not about creating your living will or your durable power of attorney, although that is a part of it. It is these conversations that are the most important thing to do. And in the United States, we avoid death as if it were the plague. And it's not, you're born, you're going to die. We haven't figured out the way to stop that cycle of
Right.
life.
Right.
So I'm with you and probably thousands of other adult children whose parents are aging. Now, for me, my mother was 82 when she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and had 6 months to live.
Hmm.
That was in 2002.
Wow.
My mother decided to pick another sister to be her durable power of attorney for healthcare. They were both nurses. They could speak the same language. The problem ended up being every time I would ask, my mother would say, check with your sister. And my sister is the kind of sister that does not share anything with anyone in the family.
Oh.
So, there are family dynamics involved. And my sister then also had control of my father's health care. And again, there was no way to find out that information. So I had wished when my mother was 60 and we had a different kind of relationship that I would have just said to her, Mom, if anything should happen to me, if I were in a car accident or something happened and I wasn't going to survive it, here is what I would want you to do for me. Here is how I would want you to help me. And here's who I'm going to pick as my power of attorney. These are the people that I trust the most right now. I love you to death, Mom, but we're miles and miles apart. I mean, we live 2 states apart from each other. So I'm going to, I've got my husband, and then I'm going to pick a couple of other people that are very, very close to me. And my husband will consult with you. So I am starting the conversation with my mother. That is our recommendation. If you're trying to get your parents to talk to you and you're not willing to put out your own issues, where does that put your parents? But if you're willing to start that conversation for yourself, I bet, and I've experienced with other patients, that when the adult children offer that information, and have a conversation over a cup of coffee and say, you know, I don't think any of us are going to die anytime soon, at least knock on wood. I'm hoping not.
Right.
So I want you to know what I want, Mom, because I don't want there to be any surprises. I don't want anybody to be put in a difficult situation to make these decisions and not clearly understand what I want, because I want it to be about what I want, not what anybody else wants.
Yeah.
And so learning those questions, learning the comments, it's all in this great book from the Conversation Project.
Yeah.
And there's a wonderful video on the Conversation Project's website that was done by Diane Sawyer. It's a little documentary done about 6 years ago. But if you go to their resources, tools and resources section, you'll see this video of a family with an 85-year-old father, his daughters, son-in-laws, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all sitting around before his birthday party, having a conversation. They'd lost the mother. There was some guilt about having the mother in hospice and whether or not that was the right decision. And he was able to say to his family, no, really, she was in a lot of pain. I think that was handled very, very well. So he was able to calm them, but they were able to have some laughter, some tears, some, you know, we don't want you to go yet, Dad. You're still playing golf and you're traveling, you're doing all these things.
Yeah.
And Diane Sawyer ends that piece by saying, this is a celebration of the heart.
Hmm.
And that's what these conversations can be.
Yeah.
So I often, when I'm doing community presentations, I'll often have 80-year-old couples raise their hand. And when I say 90% of people really want to talk to their families about what their loved ones' wishes are, and they want to be able to share their own, but only 30% have done that. So 90% want it, 30% have figured out a way to do it. There's a big gap there in between.
Yep.
The people will raise their hand and say, I resemble that statistic, Roberta. So when they're 80 years old, they're saying, you know, my health is declining. I know I'm traveling, I'm doing all, and I'm pretty good, but I really want my children to know, and I don't think they do. What do I do? Because when I bring it up, they say, oh, Mom, Dad, you're too focused on death. I don't want to talk about it. I don't need to deal with it because I'm too young. And so let's just put it off another day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I had a couple do that back in 2018. And it was in October. We did 4 sessions at a church every Sunday night where we talked about advanced care planning. And they came in saying, oh, we got our documents. We got this all settled. We're all fine, but we're just here to be good parishioners in our church.
Oh.
When they left, they'd asked me that question. They said, you know, we never realized what we hadn't done yet. And the first thing this mother asked was, how do I get my kids to talk to me? So I said, here's the Conversation Project. If you don't have your children's advanced directives, send them a 5 Wishes booklet and ask them when they come for Thanksgiving to have it filled out and talk with you about it.
Yeah.
And sit down over the Thanksgiving table. I have a colleague whose mother loves advanced care planning. So every Thanksgiving, she pulls out everybody's 5 Wishes booklet, puts it on their plate at the table. When they sit down to dinner, she says, okay, before we can serve each other, is this still your current document? Has anything changed? Do we need to know anything about your health or your life or your people or, you know, your crew?
Right.
And okay, if there's a new person, we're going to give you a document. You have to fill it out. She won't let anybody eat until they have that conversation. So I also shared that in this presentation.
Yeah.
You know, this 80-year-old woman at Thanksgiving had her daughter sitting next to her, and she got the courage to say, you know, you're my healthcare power of attorney. Do you really know what I want? And could you talk for me if something happened? And the daughter said, well, no, probably not. I mean, I think I know, but I'm not sure. I've got your document. And the research shows, Kelly, that 75% of the people who have been named as our healthcare power of attorney would say the opposite of what we want because they think they know. We think they know, but they don't really because we haven't had a conversation with them. We haven't taken our document and said, I said in here, I don't want to be resuscitated. but that doesn't tell you my story. I don't want to be resuscitated if I'm 95 years old and frail, and it's going to cause me brain damage and broken ribs and damage to my organs, and I'm not going to survive it.
Right.
I do want CPR if I'm 60 and having a heart attack, and I could be brought back from that heart attack and then live another 40 years.
Right.
So it's those conversations and the details that keep us from knowing exactly what to do. I want to finish my story. So her daughter and her got a whole different understanding. By Christmas, her mother was diagnosed with glioblastoma, which you know is a terrible brain cancer
Yep.
that most people don't survive at all.
Yep.
By June, her mother was declining and really couldn't speak, but she loved music. And the assisted living facility where she lived with her husband always did a music festival. And so they put on this music festival, and this woman was there, tapped her toe, enjoyed the music, just loved it. Her daughter was there with her, and she just smiled and smiled and smiled. In September, her mother passed away. 2 weeks after that, her daughter came and talked to the woman who had organized this event in October and said, you know what? My mother got every single thing she wanted, only because we had that conversation at Thanksgiving. And I and my dad knew exactly what to do. You know, I wouldn't have, my siblings would not have. And I needed to support my dad too. So knowing what my mom wanted meant that I wasn't in conflict with anyone in our family. And so my dad didn't have to deal with, how do I deal with a conflict with my children and the devastation of losing my wife. So how do you have these conversations when somebody won't talk, whether it's your parents or your children, is you get something like this that you can hang on to when you're scared about
Right.
bringing up that
Right,
topic.
and just say it says, and just read it, because then it's not about how you feel. You're just reading it off the page. Yeah.
That's it. And it says, when do you want to get together? Who do you want to have around the table? You know, do this over coffee. Have death over dinner. That's what my friend's mother calls it. Thanksgiving. The holidays are coming up. People are gathering. Have a glass of wine when you have this conversation, or, you know, something that brings comfort. Have cake and coffee. We have death cafes, and the big thing about death cafe conversations, because it was created in England, is you get a piece of cake or a scone and a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and you just sit around and talk about what's important to you, or what you question, or what you're struggling with. And this has, okay, get ready, get set, and then go. There's all the questions in here. You can hand out these. We will give these as many as you want. You just go to wellspan.org to Horizon Planning. My phone number's available, and 717-812-6065. Call me, and I'll make sure that our listeners get the documents that they need.
Yeah.
And that's the step. The step is have the document, have somebody's living will, durable power of attorney if they have one, and sit down and say, okay, I see you check this box. What does that really mean to you, mom and dad, sister, brother, best friend? In what situations am I supposed to make that decision for you? And knowing I'm not going to have to make that decision until there's 2 physicians who've said, you can't make your own decisions right now because you're in a coma, you're under anesthesia, you're too drugged for pain, or you're just truly at the end of your life and the death process is setting in. So I think that's how to do it. I hope you can figure out a way to sit down with your mom and dad with this guidance, Kelly.
Yeah.
I wish I had had that opportunity with my mom and dad, because I have regrets. I have some guilt, but only because I know that it could have been different.
Yeah.
And we know from research that people that have these conversations know what their loved ones want, are able to support those decisions, have a whole lot less depression and anxiety after the person is gone.
I think that's just the most important part. I don't want to, I mean, it's hard enough when you lose somebody, no matter who it is. Why
Yeah.
would you should do everything you can to make it as easy as possible. So if that means you have to go through some uncomfortableness to get to that spot, that's okay.
Yeah. And just bring a box of Kleenex. Just don't forget to bring the box of Kleenex just in case,
Right,
somebody gets a little teary-eyed. There's no reason to avoid a little bit of teary-eyed
right.
because that's saying, I love you so much. I can't even begin to imagine losing you.
Yeah.
That's all that's about. We've lived a good life, and at some point we have to deal with there will be an end. We just don't know when, and we want to be prepared for when. Now, the other thing is the Conversation Project, which is conversationproject.org, offers these for free. So you can go to their web. They don't charge for any of their documents. You can go to their website.
Oh,
You
wow.
can download this. They also have a checklist questionnaire about COVID-19. So any of these
Good.
resources that are available, you can go to the website, download them. There's a workbook for people with serious illness to think about, okay, what do I want to talk about with my doctor? What are the questions I have about my illness and its progression and when I might need to decide, that I'm getting closer to the end of my life and I want to have some quality. I want to do some things. I want to make sure I accomplish some things before it's my time.
Yeah.
So again, these conversations are about quality of life, quantity of life combined, not just having quantity because you're hooked up to a machine, but
Right.
having quality because you've said, I want to die naturally. I want to die at home. I want my family to know so that they're always supporting my decisions and not doing something that's against my wishes just because they don't know.
Yeah. It's time.
Yeah,
Time to have the conversation. It's time to
it
do it.
is. Yep. And Halloween's coming up. What a good time, It is All Hallowed Eve. And, with all the goblins and ghouls out there,
Might
have
as
your own
well have
little death cafe.
right. Might as well have a real conversation about it instead of all this make believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad always that we're having these conversations, as
Yeah.
tough
It's
as
just
they can be.
it makes it talking about it makes it less scary. So no
Yeah.
matter who you are, you can just go, I got if I was not doing these, I would watch one to get like psyched up to do it. Like if
Yeah.
if I knew I had to do it, I would just watch one of us, like watch us talking and go, they can do it. It's fine. It's totally
Right.
good. And
Right.
then do it.
And the other thing, I guess, Kelly, I also want to bring up is that there are some cultural things and there are some misperceptions. So I had a young woman tell me that a relative of hers, she keeps trying to have a conversation with, and the response is, what are you trying to bring death on? What if we talk about this, that we'll bring death on? Well, no, you won't, because if that were the case, everybody would be dead from attending a funeral. So,
Right.
we have very limited population
Right.
because we have to talk about death on a regular basis with loved ones that die. In the healthcare profession, there'd be no doctors or nurses.
Right.
So, you have to understand the culture, the misperceptions, and you have to keep trying. So there's a lot of history that people bring with them. Sometimes I ask questions like, what gives your life meaning? What's most important to you? And then if somebody were to tell you you only had 6 weeks, what would you want to do together? What should we do? I know you love to read. Would you want me to just get you a whole stack of books? I know you love the beach. Should we go to the beach for a week? Um, you love the great grandchildren. What is it? And then what experiences have you had with somebody else that's died that you would never want to have happen for you? So I recently had conversations with people where I was helping them complete their living will and their durable power of attorney. And I asked that question and they said, oh my gosh, I watched my aunt on dialysis and it was just awful.
Yeah.
And I just don't want that at the end. So sometimes when we have those experiences watching other people, if you bring that out as part of the conversation, that's how you can get people to talk. You can say, when Grandpa died, what was that like for you? How did the family react? I wasn't here. I don't know, but I'd really like to know how you experienced that and what that means to you in terms of how you'd want me to care for you. Would it be the same way you cared for Grandpa or a different way? Were you even allowed to care for Grandpa, and would you want me to be able to care for you? See, you've got to make it a conversation. You've got to make it about reality.
Yeah.
And these are some of the prompts and tools that are available to get that conversation going.
This is awesome. I think I'm going to call my dad. I think we need to have a conversation.
Kelly, I'm
We
so
need to
glad.
do it.
I'm so glad. And everybody else out there that's prompted to do this, I guarantee you, getting through it is a little tough at times, but it is well worth it on the other end. It will become such a cherished conversation
Yeah.
when you need it.
And
It
if
really will.
any of the viewers have questions, you could leave them in the chat. Send us a private message at the hub, and we will make sure that they get over to Roberta. That's perfect. Good.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my friend.
Always,
See you
Kelly.
next week.
You take good care. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.